When my son Marcus threw me out of his wedding reception in front of 200 guests, I thought I'd hit rock bottom. I'm Robert Chen, 67 years old, and what happened the next morning when he showed up demanding my property papers taught both of us a lesson about respect that nobody saw coming. Before I tell you exactly what I did that made Marcus and his new wife lose everything, please subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. Stories like this need to be shared to warn others about family members who see their parents as nothing more than ATMs with a pulse. My name is Robert Chen, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered my son's wedding wasn't about love. It was about securing a $2.3 million real estate portfolio he thought he'd already inherited. But it wasn't just the greed that nearly destroyed me. It was finding out his fiancée Melissa had been planning this since the day they met. The moment I knew something was wrong came 3 days before the wedding when Marcus asked me to sign some papers for the caterer. Let me back up. For months, my son had been acting strange. Marcus, my 34-year-old only child who used to call me every Sunday, suddenly couldn't find time to talk. He was always on his phone, texting someone, and hanging up when I walked by. He started asking pointed questions about my properties, my retirement accounts, my will. Then there was Melissa Torres, the 29-year-old marketing consultant he'd been dating for 8 months. She'd shown up at my Sacramento home constantly, always with excuses. She wanted to see the garden. She was interested in the house's history. She needed advice about investments. But Melissa only came when Marcus was supposed to be at work. That Tuesday afternoon, I came home early from my doctor's appointment and found Melissa's white Mercedes parked in my driveway. I walked quietly into my house and heard voices from my office. Melissa's laugh, but different, calculating, victorious. "This place is worth at least $1.8 million, I heard her say, followed by a man's voice I didn't recognize. Plus the rental properties. We're talking serious money here." When I walked in my office, Melissa jumped up so fast her chair rolled backward. A man in an expensive suit was leaning against my desk, holding my property tax statements. "Robert," Melissa's voice was too bright. "You're home early." The man flashed a practice smile. "James Patterson, real estate consultant. Just helping Melissa understand property values for their future planning." The explanation was reasonable, but something felt wrong. Melissa's flushed cheeks, the way they'd both startled when I appeared, the intimate way this stranger was handling my private financial documents. James left quickly, but I caught the look that passed between them. It lasted only a second, but it was loaded with meaning, the kind of look that said they'd continue their conversation later. That night, Marcus was unusually attentive during our wedding planning dinner. He kept asking about my health, my estate plan, whether I'd updated my will recently. His questions should have seemed caring, but they felt performative, like he was checking boxes on a list. The next morning, I was reviewing the wedding expenses when something caught my eye. I'd agreed to pay for the wedding, an $85,000 affair at the Fairmont in San Francisco. But the contract Marcus had given me to sign showed $125,000, an extra $40,000 I hadn't authorized. I quietly pulled out my reading glasses and examined every line. There were charges for upgrades I'd never discussed, premium bar packages, extended venue time, a honeymoon suite for a week that was somehow part of the essential wedding package. I called the Fairmont directly. "This is Robert Chen. I'm paying for the Marcus Chen wedding this Saturday. Can you confirm the total?" The event coordinator pulled up the file. "Yes, Mr. Chen. Total is $85,000 as agreed. Is there a problem? Can you tell me who submitted the contract showing $125,000? A pause. "That was submitted by the groom's fiancée, Melissa Torres. She said it was the updated version you'd approved. She'd forged my approval for an extra $40,000. I thanked the coordinator and hung up, my hands trembling. The woman my son was about to marry, the woman I'd welcomed into our family, was stealing from me before she even had a ring on her finger. And I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. That discovery changed everything. I needed concrete evidence, not just suspicions. I needed to understand the full scope of what Marcus and Melissa were planning. Wednesday morning, I kissed Marcus goodbye at breakfast like always, but everything felt different. His eyes were evasive, and he kept checking his phone under the table. As I drove to my accountant's office, my mind was already working on a plan. 45 years in commercial real estate had taught me about contracts, documentation, and trust, but it had also taught me about fraud. During the meeting with Tom Berkshire, my accountant for 20 years, I laid out my concerns. Tom, I need you to audit every document Marcus has touched in the past 6 months. Every paper I've signed, every authorization, everything. Tom's expression grew serious as I explained about the wedding contract discrepancy and Melissa's uninvited tour of my finances. Robert, if they're planning what I think they're planning, you need to protect yourself immediately. What am I looking at? Best case, financial manipulation. Worst case, elder fraud, forgery, possibly worse. Tom pulled out his laptop. Give me 48 hours. I'll know everything. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I visited my safe deposit box at Wells Fargo. Inside were the original deeds to all 7 of my properties, stock certificates, bonds, and the will I'd written 5 years ago. The will that left everything to Marcus, but only after my death, with ironclad protections against challenges or early probate. I photographed every document with my phone, uploaded them to a secure cloud account Tom had set up, and returned everything to the vault. If someone was trying to access my assets, they'd need more than forged signatures. Wednesday night, Marcus came over for dinner. We sat in the kitchen I'd renovated in 1998, the year his mother died, and I watched him carefully. Son, I've been thinking about the wedding. $85,000 is a lot of money. Marcus tensed slightly. Dad, you said you wanted to pay for it. Are you backing out? Not at all. I just want to make sure we're on the same page about costs. We are. Everything's set. The Fairmont confirmed it, right? They confirmed the $85,000, yes. I watched his face. Is there anything else I should know about? His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. No. Why would there be? Just checking. You know I'm careful with money. Marcus forced a laugh. Too careful sometimes, Dad. You should enjoy your retirement instead of worrying about every dollar. After he left, I stood at my kitchen window watching his car disappear down the street. My son had just lied to my face. And whatever he was planning, the wedding was clearly the catalyst. Thursday morning brought the call I'd been dreading. Robert, it's Tom. You need to come to my office immediately. What I found is worse than we thought. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Tom as he laid out 6 months of forensic financial analysis. Someone's been systematically positioning themselves to take control of your assets. It started small, but it's accelerating. He pulled out the first document. 3 months ago, someone attempted to file a beneficiary change on your IRA. The signature looked like yours, but the notary was fraudulent. The bank caught it? Barely. They called you to confirm, but you were in Hawaii visiting your sister. By the time he got back, they'd moved on to the next attempt. Tom pulled out another sheet. 6 weeks ago, someone tried to add a cosigner to your primary checking account. Again, forged signature, fake notary. My blood ran cold. How many attempts? 7 that I've found so far. Property deeds, investment accounts, life insurance beneficiaries. Someone's been trying every angle to gain access to or control over your money. Marcus. Tom's face was grim. The attempts all coincide with times Marcus had access to your home office. And the IP address used to access your online banking matches his laptop. You're certain? Robert, I'm sorry, but yes. Your son has been systematically attempting to commit financial fraud against you for at least 3 months. I sat back, numb. Why now? Why the sudden urgency? Tom pulled out one final document. Because of this, Marcus owes $340,000 to a private investment group. The loan was due last month. He defaulted. How do you know this? Because he used your name and property as collateral without your knowledge. The lender just sent a demand letter to your home address. The room tilted. Marcus hadn't just been planning to steal from me. He'd already been stealing my identity to secure a loan from what Tom called a very dangerous group of people. What happens if he doesn't pay? These aren't bank lenders, Robert. They're essentially loan sharks disguised as investment firms. When people don't pay, they collect through other means. My properties, your life insurance, whatever assets they think you have. And if you're not cooperative, Tom didn't finish. He didn't need to. Thursday night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my den with the lights off, thinking about the boy I'd raised alone after his mother died. The son I'd worked 70-hour weeks to put through Berkeley. The man who'd stood at his mother's grave and promised to always take care of me. That man was trying to rob me. And his wedding in 2 days wasn't a celebration of love. It was the final piece of a con game I'd been too blind to see. Friday morning, I made my decision. This couldn't just be about stopping Marcus. This had to be about protecting myself and teaching him that respect isn't optional, even from family. I called my attorney, Richard Walsh, who'd handled my real estate transactions for 30 years. Richard, I need an emergency meeting. Today. An hour later, I sat in his downtown office with Tom Berkshire and a detective Richard had brought in named Sarah Martinez. I laid out everything. The forged documents, the fraudulent loan, the wedding contract discrepancy, Melissa's suspicious behavior. Detective Martinez took notes without expression. When I finished, she looked up. Mr. Chen, what you're describing is organized financial exploitation. Your son and his fiancée appear to be working together. Can you prove it? With what you've given us, we can start an investigation. But it would help if we had something more direct. A confession, recorded evidence, something concrete. Richard leaned forward. Robert, I know this is difficult, but you could wear a wire. Get Marcus to talk about his plans. You want me to spy on my own son? I want you to protect yourself from someone who's trying to rob you, Richard said quietly. Whether he's your son or not. I thought about the $340,000 debt. About Melissa touring my house with a real estate consultant. About 7 forged document attempts in 6 months. What I need to do. Friday afternoon, Detective Martinez fitted me with a recording device so small I couldn't feel under my shirt. It's voice-activated, she explained. Just have a normal conversation. Ask questions. Let him talk. What questions? Ask about the wedding expenses. About his plans after marriage. About whether he needs any financial help. People who are planning fraud often can't resist hinting at their intentions. That evening, Marcus came over to finalize last-minute wedding details. We sat in my living room, and I activated the device with a subtle button press. Son, I've been thinking. After the wedding, do you and Melissa need any help getting settled? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. We're fine, Dad. Melissa makes good money. I know. But a new marriage has expenses. I could help with a down payment on a house, maybe set up a trust fund. His eyes lit up for just a second, then darkened. Actually, we've been looking at properties. There's a development project we're interested in. Tell me about it. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus described an investment opportunity that required $400,000 upfront. Melissa knows the developers. It's a sure thing, Dad. We'd triple our money in 18 months. That's a lot of capital, son. I know, but we've been thinking maybe there's a way to leverage some of your properties, like a reverse mortgage or a HELOC. You wouldn't have to sell anything. You want me to borrow against my real estate, just temporarily. Once the development pays out, we'd pay everything back with interest. You'd actually make money. I kept my voice neutral. Have you already looked into this? Talk to lenders. Marcus hesitated too long. We've done some preliminary research. Nothing formal. Nothing formal? Dad, why are you interrogating me? I'm not interrogating. I'm asking questions about a $400,000 investment you want me to fund. Marcus stood up, agitated. Forget it. I shouldn't have asked. Melissa said you'd react like this. React like what? Like I'm trying to take advantage of you. Like I'm some kind of criminal. The word hung in the air between us. Son, sit down. Let's talk about this calmly. But Marcus was already heading for the door. I'll see you at the wedding, Dad. Try to be supportive for once in your life. After he left, I sat in the silence for a long time. Then I sent the recording to Detective Martinez. Her response came back in 5 minutes. This is good, but we need more. Can you attend the wedding and see if Melissa reveals anything? Saturday morning arrived with that crystalline California sunshine that makes everything look perfect on the surface. I put on my best suit, the charcoal Tom Ford I'd bought for Marcus's graduation, and drove to the Fairmont. The wedding was scheduled for 2 p.m., with a reception to follow in the hotel's grand ballroom. I arrived early and found Marcus in a private suite, surrounded by groomsmen I didn't recognize. Dad, Marcus's greeting was cold. You made it. Of course I made it. I'm your father. One of the groomsmen, a tall guy with slick back hair, looked me up and down. This is the property mogul? He asked Marcus. The one with the Sacramento portfolio? Marcus shot him a warning look. Yeah, Dad, this is Trevor. Works with Melissa in marketing. Trevor extended his hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Chen, we've heard so much about your success. Marcus is lucky to have such a resourceful father. The word resourceful sounded like code for something else. I shook his hand and left, the recording device capturing every word. The ceremony was beautiful, I'll give him that. Melissa looked stunning in a $15,000 Vera Wang dress. I knew because I'd been sent that bill too. Marcus looked handsome, but nervous, checking his phone even as the officiant spoke about commitment and trust. When they exchanged vows, I watched Melissa's face. She wasn't looking at Marcus with love. She was looking at him with satisfaction, like someone who'd just closed a major business deal. After the ceremony, I approached them for photos. Congratulations, son. Melissa, you look beautiful. Melissa smiled, but it was mechanical. Thank you, Robert. We're so glad you could be here. Wouldn't miss it. My only son's wedding. Marcus pulled me aside while the photographer set up. Dad, about last night. I'm sorry I got upset. It's fine, son. Let's enjoy today. Actually, there's something we need to discuss tomorrow. Melissa and I are coming by your house around 10 a.m. What for? Just some paperwork. Estate planning stuff. Our financial advisor recommended we get everything organized now that we're married. My blood went cold, but I kept my face neutral. Sure, 10 a.m. works. The reception started at 6 p.m. I sat at a table with distant relatives I barely knew while Marcus and Melissa made their rounds. I watched Melissa carefully. She spent more time talking to Trevor and that real estate consultant, James, than she did with actual wedding guests. At 8 p.m., Marcus approached my table with Melissa beside him. Both looked flushed from champagne and something else. Confidence, maybe. Arrogance. Dad, we need to talk to you. Privately. They led me to a small side room off the main ballroom. As soon as the door closed, Melissa's demeanor changed completely. The bride's smile vanished, replaced by cold calculation. Robert, we need you to sign some documents, she said, pulling papers from her clutch purse. What documents? Marcus stepped forward. It's the estate planning we mentioned. We need you to sign a power of attorney, update your will, and transfer some assets into a family trust. At your wedding reception? It needs to be done today, Melissa said sharply. Our lawyers are standing by. I looked at the papers. They were dense with legal language, but I caught key phrases. Immediate transfer of property, full discretionary power, irrevocable trust with Marcus Chen as sole trustee. This isn't estate planning, I said slowly. This is you taking control of everything I own. Don't be dramatic, Marcus said. It's for tax purposes. Our accountant explained it. Your accountant or Melissa's real estate consultant? Melissa's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? I'm implying that you've been planning this since the day you met my son. The property tours, the forged documents, the fraudulent loan. All of it. The room went silent. Then Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. Dad, you're being paranoid. Those were honest mistakes. 7 attempts to access my accounts were mistakes. Melissa's face went pale. How did you? She stopped, realizing she'd just confirmed she knew about the fraud attempts. Marcus grabbed my arm. Dad, just sign the papers. Don't make this difficult. Or what? Or we'll do this the hard way, Melissa said. We have documentation showing you're mentally incompetent. Dementia, early Alzheimer's. We'll have you declared unfit and get conservatorship. I stare at my son. You'd have me declared incompetent? If you force us to, Marcus said. Dad, just cooperate. Sign the papers and everything stays friendly. And if I don't? Melissa smiled coldly. Then tomorrow morning, we file for emergency conservatorship. We have doctor's reports, witness statements, everything we need. You'll lose control either way, Robert. But if you sign now, at least you can stay in your house. Under your supervision. Under our care. Marcus corrected. It's better this way, Dad. You're 67 years old. You shouldn't be managing properties and investments alone anymore. Let's help you. I looked at my son, really looked at him. This was who he'd become. Or maybe this was who he'd always been, and I'd been too blind to see it. No, I said quietly. Marcus's grip on my arm tightened. What? I said no. I'm not signing anything. Melissa's voice went ice cold. Marcus, call security. Wait, Marcus said. Dad, you don't understand the position you're in. I understand perfectly. You've been stealing from me for months. Your wife has been casing my properties. You took out a fraudulent loan in my name, and now you're trying to strong-arm me into signing over my life's work. That's not what this is. That's exactly what this is. I pull my arm free, and I'm leaving. Marcus moved to block the door. No, you're not. Not until we settle this. Son, move. Sign the papers, Dad. Move. Now. Marcus's face flushed with anger. You're really going to do this? At my wedding? You're going to embarrass me in front of everyone. I'm not the one who should be embarrassed. Melissa pulled out her phone. Fine. If you won't cooperate, we'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. A bitter old man trying to control his son's life. Trying to ruin his wedding day. Do what you need to do, I said. But I'm leaving. I reached for the door handle. Marcus grabbed my shoulder and shoved me backward. Hard enough that I stumbled, hit a chair, nearly fell. You're not leaving until you sign. That's when the door burst open. Detective Martinez and two uniformed officers stood in the hallway. Mr. Chen, are you all right? I'm fine, I said, straightening up. Melissa's face went white. Who are you people? Sacramento PD. We've been monitoring this situation. Detective Martinez looked at Marcus. Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for elder abuse, attempted fraud, and assault. What? This is insane. But the officers were already moving forward with handcuffs. Melissa Torres, you're also under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and identity theft. The commotion had drawn a crowd. Wedding guests filled the hallway, phones out, recording everything. Marcus fought against the handcuffs. Dad, tell them this is a misunderstanding. But I just stood there, watching my son realize too late that the quiet old man he'd tried to rob wasn't as helpless as he'd assumed. Melissa was screaming. This is his fault. He's lying. Marcus, tell them. But Marcus had gone silent, staring at me with something between shock and hatred. As they led him away, he called back one last time. You're really doing this? At my wedding? You're really stealing from me? I replied, at your wedding? The officers took them out a side entrance to avoid the crowd, but the damage was done. Within minutes, the reception had collapsed into chaos. Guests were leaving, the DJ had stopped playing, and I stood in the hallway surrounded by people I didn't know, all of them staring at me like I was the villain. Trevor, the groomsman, pushed through the crowd. You couldn't wait until tomorrow? You had to ruin his wedding. His wedding was already ruined, I said quietly. He just didn't know it yet. I walked out, through the lobby, past the shocked hotel staff, into the cool San Francisco evening. Behind me, I could hear people talking, speculating, recording videos that would be on social media within the hour. I didn't care. I'd spent 6 months being careful, being quiet, gathering evidence. Tonight was the confrontation I'd been avoiding. And sometimes the truth has to come out in the most public way possible. As I drove back to Sacramento, my phone started ringing. Richard Walsh. Robert, I saw the video. It's already online. Are you okay? I'm fine. The recording worked. We have everything we need. Good. There's something else. The loan sharks Marcus borrowed from? They've been watching your house. Martinez wants you to stay somewhere else for a few days. I'm not leaving my home. Robert, if they want to come, let them come. But I'm not running. I hung up and drove straight home. The house was dark and quiet. I made myself tea and sat in Margaret's old chair, thinking about the boy Marcus used to be. The kid who'd helped me plant tomatoes in the backyard, who'd cried at his mother's funeral and promised to make her proud. Somewhere along the way, that boy had disappeared. Or maybe he'd never really existed. Maybe I'd been seeing what I wanted to see instead of what was really there. Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m., someone knocked on my door. I'd been expecting it. Through the peephole, I saw 2 men in expensive suits. One held a briefcase. The other kept his hand inside his jacket. I opened the door with the chain still on. Can I help you? Mr. Chun, I'm David Brennan. We need to discuss your son's debt. I'm aware of the debt. I'm not responsible for it. Actually, he used your property as collateral. That makes you very responsible. Except he didn't have authorization to use my property. The loan is fraudulent. Brennan's smile was thin and cold. That's between you and Marcus. We have a signed contract. Then you should discuss it with Marcus. He's currently in jail. The other man stepped forward. Mr. Chun, we're not here to debate legalities. You owe us $340,000. We're here to collect. I don't owe you anything. You have 7 days to secure payment. After that, we'll collect through other means. Is that a threat? Brennan's smile widened. It's business, Mr. Chun. 7 days. They walked back to their black BMW and drove away. I closed the door and immediately called Detective Martinez. They just made contact. 2 men, aggressive collection tactics, implied threats. Did you get names? David Brennan and one other. We're already watching them, Robert. This is part of a larger investigation into their operation. Your son's case might help us shut them down entirely. What happens to Marcus? He'll be arraigned Monday. With the evidence we have, he's looking at felony charges. Financial fraud, elder abuse, assault. He could get 5 to 8 years. I sat down heavily. 8 years in prison. My only son. Robert, are you having second thoughts? No, I said, though my voice cracked slightly. He made his choices. After hanging up, I sat in a quiet house and let myself feel what I'd been suppressing. Not anger anymore, just profound sadness. The son I'd raised was gone, replaced by a stranger who saw me as nothing more than a bank account to be drained. Monday morning, I drove to the courthouse for Marcus's arraignment. The hallway was packed with reporters who'd picked up the story. Groom arrested at wedding for elder abuse. The headlines read. I pushed through them and found a seat in the back of the courtroom. Marcus was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. When his eyes found mine, I saw something I hadn't expected. Fear. The prosecutor laid out the charges. 3 counts of attempted fraud, 1 count of identity theft, 1 count of elder abuse, 1 count of assault. Each count carried 2 to 4 years. Marcus's public defender argued for bail, citing his clean record and community ties. The prosecutor countered with flight risk and the severity of the charges. The judge set bail at $200,000. Marcus couldn't make it. As I led him away, he looked back at me one last time. I didn't look away, but I didn't wave either. Tuesday morning, Melissa's parents called me. Mr. Chun, this is Robert Torres, Melissa's mother. We need to talk about what you're doing to our daughter. What I'm doing? You're destroying 2 young people's lives over a misunderstanding. Your daughter tried to steal $2.3 million from me. That's not true. Melissa was trying to help you manage your assets. You're elderly, confused. I'm neither elderly nor confused, Mrs. Torres. Your daughter is a con artist. She hung up on me. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. An unknown number. Mr. Chun, this is Gerald Vance. I'm Marcus's biological father. I went completely still. What? I know this is a shock. I've been trying to reach Marcus for years, but he never responded. I saw the news and thought maybe I could help. Help how? I'm a real estate developer in Phoenix. I have resources. I'd like to pay Marcus's bail and help him fight these charges. Something about his voice felt wrong. Too smooth, too rehearsed. How did you get my number? A pause. From public records. Listen, I know I haven't been in Marcus's life, but I want to make that right. By paying his bail, by helping my son when he needs me most. I thought about the timeline. Marcus was arrested Saturday night. Today was Tuesday. How did this supposed father find out, locate me, and prepare a bail offer in less than 72 hours? Mr. Vance, thank you for the call, but Marcus doesn't need your help. Mr. Chun, with all due respect, I'm his father. No, you're not. Marcus's biological father died in a car accident when Marcus was 2. I'm the man who raised him, and I know exactly who I'm dealing with. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Detective Martinez called. Robert, did you just get a call from someone claiming to be Marcus's father? Yes. How did you know? Because David Brennan uses that same con to get information for victims' families. He's probably trying to assess whether you'll pay the debt to save Marcus. I'm not paying anything. Good. Because once you pay once, they'll keep coming back. That afternoon, Tom Berkshire called with more bad news. Robert, I found another problem. The $40,000 Melissa tried to inflate the wedding contract. She's already spent it. On what? Luxury purchases, mostly. Designer clothes, jewelry, a down payment on a condo in Miami. None of it refundable. So the money's gone. Worse, she used credit cards in your name to make the purchases. You're technically liable for the debt unless we can prove fraud, which we can, but it'll take time to resolve. I was now dealing with identity theft, fraudulent debt, threatened collections, and a son who might spend a decade in prison. And somehow, I was the villain in this story. Wednesday morning, I met with Richard Walsh and Tom Berkshire in Richard's office. Gentlemen, I need to understand something. If Marcus and Melissa succeed in any way, what's the worst-case scenario? Richard pulled out a legal pad. Worst case, they claim incompetence, get you declared unfit, take conservatorship, and systematically drain your assets over the next 5 to 10 years. You'd end up in a state nursing home with nothing. And the loan sharks? If they can't collect from Marcus, they'll go after you directly. Harassment, threats, possibly violence. What about my properties? Tom leaned forward. If they get conservatorship, they could sell everything. The rental properties, your home, your investment portfolio. All of it. The stakes were suddenly crystal clear. This wasn't about a wedding gone wrong. This was about my survival. What do we do? Richard pulled out a thick folder. We go nuclear. We don't just defend against their charges. We destroy their credibility completely. Over the next 3 hours, we crafted a strategy that would expose every lie Marcus and Melissa had told. Every forged document, every fraudulent transaction, every manipulation attempt. We'd turn the tables so completely that no judge would ever believe their incompetence claims. Thursday morning, I got a call from Marcus's cellmate's girlfriend, or at least someone claiming to be. Mr. Chen, my boyfriend, knows Marcus in jail. He says Marcus wants to make a deal. A deal. Drop the charges, sign over some properties, and everyone walks away. Otherwise, she let the threat hang. I called Martinez immediately. They're trying to use other inmates to threaten you, she said. That's witness intimidation. It actually helps our case. Ow! Because it shows consciousness of guilt and willingness to commit new crimes. Keep a record of every contact. Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week after the wedding, the preliminary hearing began. I sat in the gallery while the prosecutor presented evidence. They had everything. The forged documents, the fraudulent loan application, the recording of Marcus and Melissa threatening me at the wedding. The assault captured on security cameras. When it was over, the judge denied bail entirely. Mr. Chen, you're accused of attempting to defraud your elderly father out of millions of dollars. You physically assaulted him when he refused to cooperate. You're being held without bail pending trial. Marcus's face crumbled. He looked at me across the courtroom with desperation. Dad, please. Tell them I didn't mean it. But I remained silent. After the hearing, Melissa's attorney approached me in the hallway. Mr. Chen, my client would like to offer a deal. She'll testify against Marcus in exchange for reduced charges. No deals, I said. Melissa Torres orchestrated this entire scheme. She's going to face every charge. That weekend, I sat in my house alone and thought about forgiveness. People were already saying I was too harsh. That family should forgive family. That I should drop the charges and work it out privately. But this wasn't about forgiveness. This was about consequences. Marcus had made choices, calculated choices to steal from me, threaten me, and when caught, assault me. Those choices had consequences. And if I forgave him now, what lesson would that teach? That he could do anything to me without repercussions? That being family meant you got a free pass to commit crimes? Monday morning, 2 weeks after the wedding, I walked into the Sacramento District Attorney's office for a meeting. Mr. Chen, the DA said, I want to be clear about what we're facing. Your son and his wife are mounting a defense claiming you've been mentally declining, that you misinterpreted their help as theft, that you became violent and they were trying to protect themselves. Do you believe them? Not even slightly. But juries can be sympathetic to young couples. We need to make sure our case is bulletproof. What do you need from me? A psychiatric evaluation. Prove you're mentally competent. And I need you to be prepared for what they'll throw at you. They're going to attack your character, your memory, your judgment. The evaluation took 3 days. Cognitive tests, memory assessments, psychological interviews. Dr. Patricia Howard, a forensic psychiatrist, put me through every test imaginable. On Friday, I returned to the DA's office for the results. Mr. Chen, I've reviewed Dr. Howard's report. You tested in the 97th percentile for your age group. No signs of dementia, Alzheimer's, or any cognitive impairment. So, I'm competent, extraordinarily so. You have the mental acuity of someone 20 years younger. The DA smiled. Marcus and Melissa just lost their only defense. The trial was set for 3 months out. In that time, I had to endure public scrutiny unlike anything I'd experienced. The story had gone viral. Son arrested at wedding for trying to rob father was the sympathetic headline. But there were others. Bitter father ruins son's wedding over money. Elderly man sends son to jail in estate dispute. Family torn apart by greed. The comment sections were brutal. People accused me of being vindictive, controlling, abusive. They said I was using my wealth to punish Marcus for getting married. That Melissa was the real victim of an overbearing father-in-law. I didn't respond to any of it. Richard had advised complete silence. Let the evidence speak for itself, he said. But it was hard. Watching strangers online paint me as the villain when I'd been the victim. 2 months before trial, something unexpected happened. Trevor, the groomsman who'd called me a property mogul, reached out through his attorney. Mr. Chen, I have information about Melissa Torres. She ran this same scam 2 years ago in Denver. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Trevor was nervous, checking over his shoulder. I didn't know what I was getting into, he said. Melissa approached me 6 months ago. Said she'd found a Mark, an old guy with millions in property. She needed help setting up the con. Why are you telling me this now? Because she promised me a cut, 10% of whatever she got. But now she's in jail, and those loan shark people came to my apartment. They think I was part of Marcus's debt scheme. Were you? No. I just helped Melissa research her properties. I didn't know about the forged documents or the loan. Trevor pulled out a phone. But I have evidence. Text messages, emails, recordings of Melissa explaining how she'd done this before. Her last victim was a 72-year-old widower in Denver. She took him for $400,000 before his daughter stopped her. Detective Martinez was very interested in Trevor's information. This establishes a pattern of behavior, she said. Melissa Torres is a serial elder fraud predator. This changes everything. With Trevor's cooperation, they uncovered Melissa's entire history. 3 previous victims across 4 years. Each time, she'd found wealthy older men, gotten close to their families, and systematically stolen from them. Marcus was just her latest target. Except this time, she decided to marry the son to make the theft legal. Did Marcus know? I asked Martinez. About her past? She showed me recovered text messages. Melissa to Marcus, 2 weeks before the wedding. Once we're married and he signs the trust papers, we're set for life. Your dad will never even know. Marcus's response. Are you sure this will work? Melissa, trust me, I've done this before. Old men are easy. My son had known. He'd known exactly what Melissa was, and he'd helped her anyway. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I sat in the courtroom every day, watching as prosecutor laid out the evidence. Forged documents presented in chronological order. Bank records showing fraudulent transactions. The recording of Marcus threatening me at the wedding. Security footage of him pushing me. Medical reports from my psychiatric evaluation. Expert witnesses explaining how elder fraud schemes work. And Trevor's testimony about Melissa's pattern of targeting wealthy, older men. The defense tried everything. They claimed I was a controlling father trying to punish Marcus for choosing his own wife. They said the documents were legitimate and I'd forgotten signing them. They argued that the wedding confrontation was a misunderstanding escalated by alcohol and stress. But Dr. Howard's testimony destroyed their competence argument. Mr. Chen's cognitive function is exceptional. He has no memory impairment, no confusion, no signs of declining capacity. He knew exactly what he was refusing to sign. When it was my turn to testify, the defense attorney tried to paint me as a bitter man afraid of losing control. Mr. Chen, isn't it true you've never approved of any of Marcus's relationships? That's not true. I liked several of his previous girlfriends. But you didn't like Melissa? I didn't like what Melissa was doing to my son. Which was what? Turning him into a criminal. The attorney tried again. Isn't it true you threatened to disinherit Marcus if he married Melissa? No. I told him I wouldn't sign documents giving them control of my assets. There's a difference. But you were willing to pay for the wedding? Because I thought it was about love, not theft. In the end, the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Marcus Chen, guilty on all counts. Melissa Torres, guilty on all counts. Sentencing was scheduled for a month later. During that time, I received hundreds of letters. Some from supporters saying I'd done the right thing. Others from critics saying I destroyed my only son over money. One letter stood out. It was from Marcus, written in jail. Dad, I know you'll probably never read this, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I became. Melissa didn't make me do anything. I chose it. I chose the money over you. Over Mom's memory. Over everything we built together. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that prison isn't the worst punishment. The worst punishment is knowing that I became exactly the kind of person Mom would have been ashamed of. You raised me better than this. I failed you. I failed myself. I hope someday you can find peace with what happened. I'm not sure I ever will. I read the letter 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. The sentencing hearing was brief. Marcus received 7 years in state prison. Melissa received 8 years plus restitution of $1.8 million to her 3 previous victims. As the bailiff led them away, Marcus looked back at me one final time. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. But I did nod. Just once. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that he was still my son, even if he was also a criminal. 6 months after the sentencing, I sat on my porch with my neighbor Jim, who'd been a constant source of support through everything. Bob, do you ever regret it? Turning him in? I thought about that. I regret that it was necessary. But no, I don't regret doing it. People say you were too harsh. People who say that have never had their own child try to steal their life's work. Jim nodded slowly. What happens when he gets out? I don't know. Maybe by then, he'll actually be sorry. Not sorry he got caught, but sorry for what he did. And if he is, then maybe we can rebuild something. Not what we had, but something honest. A year after the trial, I received a call from the California Department of Corrections. Mr. Chen, your son has asked permission to write to you. We need your consent to forward the letters. I thought about it for a long time. Yes, I said finally. He can write. The first letter came 2 weeks later. It was different from the one he'd sent before sentencing. More raw, more honest. Dad, I've been going to therapy in here, trying to understand how I became the person who could hurt you like that. The therapist says I developed a sense of entitlement, that I started seeing your success as something that belonged to me instead of something you built, that I stopped seeing you as a person and started seeing you as an obstacle between me and the life I thought I deserved. He's probably right, but understanding it doesn't make it hurt less. I think about Mom sometimes, about what she'd say if she could see what I'd become. I know what she'd say. She'd say I dishonored everything she taught me, everything you both sacrificed to give me opportunities. I'm trying to become better, Dad. Not for parole, or for you, or for anyone else. For myself. Because I can't live with who I was. I wrote back. Not a long letter, just a few lines. Marcus, I appreciate your honesty. I'm glad you're getting help. Becoming better is its own reward, not a means to an end. Take care of yourself. We wrote every few months after that. Short letters, nothing deep. He told me about his prison job in the library. I told him about selling 2 of the rental properties to simplify my life. Neither of us mentioned forgiveness or reconciliation. Those felt too big for letters. 2 years into his sentence, Marcus called. It was the first time we'd spoken since the trial. Dad, his voice was different, quieter, less certain. Son, thank you for accepting my letters. You're welcome. A long pause. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to hear your voice. How are you doing? Okay, better than I deserve. Dad, I know what I took from you wasn't just money. It was trust, safety, the belief that family means something. Yes, I can't give that back, but I want you to know I understand what I took. We talked for 20 minutes about nothing important and everything important. When we hung up, I sat in the quiet and realized something had shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of something like it. 3 years after the wedding, I attended a victims' rights conference in San Francisco. I've been asked to speak about elder fraud and family exploitation. There were 50 people in the audience, mostly older adults who'd been targeted by family members. After my presentation, a woman approached me. Mr. Chen, thank you. My daughter has been stealing from me for 2 years. I kept making excuses, but your story helped me see it clearly. What are you going to do? I'm going to protect myself. Like you did. It's not easy, I know, but you showed me that loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. I become an accidental advocate for elder abuse victims. People reached out constantly, sharing their stories. Daughters stealing retirement funds. Sons forging documents. Grandchildren running scams. The pattern was always the same. Family members who saw their elders as resources instead of people. For years after the trial, Marcus became eligible for parole. His hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. I wasn't required to attend, but I chose to. Marcus looked older. Prison had aged him in ways that 4 years shouldn't have. But there was something else different. A humility that hadn't been there before. The parole board asked him about his crime. I attempted to defraud my father of his life's work, Marcus said. I physically assaulted him when he refused to cooperate. I showed no respect for the man who raised me. Do you accept responsibility? Completely. No excuses. What would you do if released? Marcus looked directly at me for the first time. I'd rebuild my life honestly. I'd get a job, pay my debts, and try to become someone my parents could have been proud of. And your father? If he ever wanted a relationship, I'd be grateful. But I don't expect it. I don't deserve it. The board deliberated privately. I was asked if I wanted to make a statement. My son committed serious crimes against me, I said. He violated my trust and my safety. But he's also shown genuine remorse and made real efforts to change. I don't believe he's a danger anymore. What he does with a second chance is up to him. The board granted parole with strict conditions. Employment, restitution payments, continued therapy, no contact with Melissa Torres, and supervised visits with me if I chose to allow them. Marcus was released 2 weeks later. He moved into a halfway house in Oakland and found a job as a warehouse supervisor. He didn't call me, didn't ask for anything, just sent a text. Thank you for your statement. I won't waste this chance. 6 months after his release, I drove to Oakland. I've been thinking about it for weeks and finally made the decision. Marcus lived in a small apartment near the warehouse where he worked. When he opened the door, his face showed shock. Dad, can I come in? The apartment was sparse but clean. A futon, a folding table, a small TV. Nothing like the life he'd imagined when he was planning to steal my fortune. We sat awkwardly, not sure where to start. How are you? I asked finally. Working. Going to therapy. Trying to be better. Are you? I think so. Some days are harder than others. That's honest. Marcus looked down at his hands. Dad, I know sorry isn't enough, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry for everything. Not just for what I did, but for who I became. For forgetting that you're a person, not a bank account. Why did you do it? A lot of reasons. Greed, entitlement, fear of not being successful enough. Melissa made it seem possible, and I convinced myself it was justified somehow. He paused. But the real reason? I stopped seeing you. I stopped seeing the man who raised me alone after Mom died, who worked 2 jobs to send me to Berkeley, who taught me everything important. I just saw money. We talked for 2 hours. About his therapy, about my advocacy work, about Mom, and what she would have thought of all this. When I got up to leave, Marcus walked me to the door. Dad, can I ask you something? Yes. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? I thought about that question. The same question people have been asking me for 4 years. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe forgiveness isn't something that happens all at once. Maybe it's something you build slowly, with consistency and time. So there's hope. There's possibility. That's all I can offer right now. Marcus nodded. That's more than I deserve. I drove home thinking about second chances and what they really mean. People want a neat ending where the father forgives the son and everything goes back to normal. But real life isn't neat. It's complicated and messy and full of gray areas. Marcus had hurt me in ways that didn't heal quickly, but he was also my son, and watching him genuinely try to become better meant something. It didn't erase what he'd done, but it mattered. 5 years after the wedding that never was, I sat in my Sacramento home thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the trial, the years of rebuilding. Some days I still felt angry. Other days I felt sad. And occasionally I felt something like hope. Marcus and I had dinner once a month now. We didn't talk about the past much. Mostly we talked about his job, about books he was reading, about the garden I was planting. Small things that slowly rebuilt trust. People asked if I'd changed my will. Put Marcus back in. The answer was complicated. I created a trust that would support Marcus after my death, but with strict conditions. Independent trustees. Distributions tied to demonstrated financial responsibility. Protection against fraud or manipulation. It wasn't the inheritance I'd originally planned, but it was appropriate for where we were now. Looking back at this true story, I realized the lessons I learned came at a terrible cost. If you're listening to stories like mine, hoping you'll never face betrayal from your own family, let me give you advice. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, investigate. Don't ignore red flags because you love someone. Document everything. Screenshots, photos, records, dates. Evidence saved my life and my assets. Protect yourself first. People say I was cruel turning in my own son, but self-preservation isn't cruelty. It's survival. And finally, understand that forgiveness isn't the same as trust. I may eventually forgive Marcus completely, but trust has to be earned back slowly through consistent action. This true story isn't unique. Elder financial abuse is epidemic now. If you know someone facing similar struggles, share this video. It could save them from losing everything. The most important lesson: family doesn't give anyone the right to exploit you. Blood may be thicker than water, but respect is thicker than blood. Love without respect is just manipulation. And no amount of family connection justifies theft, fraud, or abuse. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment below. Share your thoughts about family exploitation and how we can protect our elders better. Subscribe to our channel for more true stories about standing up to family abuse and protecting yourself from those who see you as nothing more than a resource to be drained. Your support helps these crucial messages reach those who need them most. Thank you for listening. And remember, you're never too old to stand up for yourself. You're never too old to demand respect. And you're never too old to choose survival over sentiment. Sometimes the people who should protect us are the ones we need protection from. And recognizing that truth isn't betrayal. It's wisdom.